Good evening. The Rancho Public Schools Board of Education special meeting for Monday, December 5th, 2022 is now called to order. If all would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, Jeffrey Morgan will start us.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kim, can you take a roll call for us?
Yes, ma'am. President Galbraith.
Present.
Vice President Morgan. Present. Secretary Scott. Board Member Tyler. And Board Member Tripp.
Present.
You have a quorum 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone out to our meeting tonight. We have a lot of student athletes and coaches who are here, and we want to welcome you here tonight. It is just a joy when we have students who come in and see us in our board meeting. And so, and the little side note, one of my son's one of those students too, so it's really nice to to have him here too. So tonight's meeting, we also would just like to recognize we have Mayor Greg Hull here with us tonight. We appreciate him being out. He'll be talking as we go into our commendations. So we'll start tonight's meeting out with some introductory comments by our superintendent of schools, Dr. Visu Cleveland.
Good evening. And we also have Counselor
Oh, that's right.
Bob Tyler here. So
Yes,
welcome
thank you.
as well.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Sorry, Bob.
All right. I have a few things to share. Just getting started. I'll try to keep my comments brief because we have some pretty important items this evening we need to discuss. Okay. I want to just give you a very brief update on COVID-19 reporting. We got some really wonderful news this week. We are no longer required to report COVID-19 cases to the Department of Health, and we do not have to complete that rather detailed and time-consuming report that we have been reporting for a long, long time. So that will free us up to do other things that are really important for the district, and we are really glad to have that task behind us. The 5-day mandatory quarantine at home remains in effect, and parents still have the responsibility of reporting all COVID positives to your child's school. So please remember to do that so we can keep track of the number of illnesses that we have. Right now, we are dealing with a lot of illness across our district. We still have some COVID cases. We've had a good number of flu, and there also is a respiratory virus that is impacting a lot of our elementary children, but also some adults. So, we encourage everyone to take all reasonable precautions to prevent the spread of illness in our schools because we want to keep our attendance strong throughout the year. And then I also want to thank all of our medical personnel, our school nurses, our health aides, for all of their ongoing hard work. They still have an incredibly hard schedule right now because there are just a lot of illnesses throughout the district. So we thank you for your work. If you will recall, I've talked about for some time doing a survey about when we should start times by levels. And we did get a good response back. There were over 3,000 who responded to the survey that we sent out. And the general consensus was that the school district really did definitely need to study this issue. You may or may not be aware, California as a state passed a law that no high school student can start before 8 o'clock, I believe, which I thought is interesting. We'll see how that goes in another state. But as you know, we have 3 tiers, really 4. And we really want to look at what is the best use of those start times. So Beth Pendergrass, our Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer, will be chairing the committee. And I have asked President Galbraith if she would consider appointing a member of the board if anyone is interested in being part of that process. And I would tell you going in, this is going to be a very difficult topic to address because the vast majority of that 3,000 thought we needed to do something different. And we very much agree with that. But finding out what that different might look like may be very hard because different people have different, very strong opinions about start and ending times. So it will be a difficult topic, but we really need to take a look at it. And we thank everyone who sent their feedback in. As you well know, the legislative session is coming up very soon. It will be a 60-day session. So, that's generally a pretty long haul. Just a couple of things I wanted to share with you that you should just be aware of as we enter into the session. We'll give you a lot more detailed information as we progress. You know that we are self-insured through the New Mexico Public School Insurance Authority. We call that NMSIA, and they insure all school districts. They also insure many higher education employees. Albuquerque is the only district that is not part of NMSIA. The rest of us are required by statute to be part of it. We are very concerned about the shortfall. It is now estimated that NMSIA may be about 42 million short. And if they are, we're really hoping that won't be passed on to us, that we will get a direct appropriation to try to get it back on its feet after COVID. The premiums for our folks now are pretty high, and our contribution as a district is pretty high, and any increase in that will be very hard for both our individual employees and for the district to manage. And so we really want to get behind that effort to ask for a direct appropriation for this shortfall. At the present time in the governor's budget, there is some funding to promote CTE in the state of New Mexico. We're excited about hearing that. And it's divided between two parts. One is for operations, which was not as much as we were hoping for, but the other is for renovation and equipment, and that was pretty significant dollars. So very pleased that our pleas have been heard to look at that, and hopefully we're going to see some funding come. That, of course, depends ultimately upon the legislature and the governor's signature. As you know, this year we had to supplement our budget by over $1 million because we did not get enough money for the English language arts adoption, and that took $1 million out of our classrooms. And so the secretary says that they have put into the governor's budget an increase of about $16 million, and they think that will cover instructional material adoption next year, and hopefully we will not have to subsidize it with our own local operational dollars. So that was another piece of really good news. The last one is kind of an ongoing saga. We were hoping that the public ed department would deal with the student transportation funding, but the decision was because it would require more funding, they're sending it back to the LESC, and the LESC is going to do a study. This will be the fourth study since I have been here on transportation. It's a very hard topic, but we are anticipating a $2 million shortfall in transportation. And we are not the only district by any means that is short. So it's really hopeful that they will pay for student transportation. As you will recall, that was part of the YALSI decision that the state would pay for student transportation. And so we really hope that what will come out of this effort will be a way to fix the formula and everybody will get funded. We are short, Las Cruces is short, Gaston is short, Farmington is short, but there are some districts that have a surplus every year. And so the need to look at that and balance that and to be fair to everyone, I know is always a priority with our state government. All right. We have some wonderful visitors here with us this evening. Bruce Carver, our Executive Director of Rio Rancho Public School Athletics, is going to present the head coaches from 4 teams who have recently earned state championship. Also, I believe that some of our student athletes are here this evening. I want to say congratulations to all of you. 4 state championships within just the last few weeks is almost unheard of. And so it's just incredibly exciting to see that kind of excellence. And we thank our head coaches. We thank our athletic directors and coordinators. We thank our families. And most of all, we thank our athletes. So we're glad to have some representation from these 4 teams here this evening. And Bruce will introduce everyone in just a moment. We do have a donation to Maggie Cordova Elementary from HP. Carl Leppelman, our Chief Academic Officer, and Michelle Havel, Principal at Maggie Cordova Elementary, will share some information on a donation that Maggie Cordova Elementary received from Hewlett-Packard. Our board policy requires that the board approve all donations given to schools or the district as a whole. And so the board will be asked to accept that donation. And we definitely want to thank HP for their generosity and their willingness to support our students and staff. We have a discussion of site options this evening. Mike Baker, Chief Operations Officer, and Carl Leppelman, Chief Academic Officer, will discuss the pros and cons of the CTE site for the location of 2 additional campuses, Independence and Rio Rancho Cyber. Both of those campuses are above capacity, and both of these schools have students on their waiting lists, and particularly Independence has a very long waiting list. We would love to be able to serve every one of those students who wants to attend either of those 2 campuses. Funding for those campuses is dependent upon voter approval for the next bond issue, so I want to be sure everyone's aware that money does not exist at this point. However, planning needs to move forward if these projects are to be done in a timely manner. And we do hope that the voters will approve those 2 projects. But we really need to expand our services to meet the needs of all of our students. Rio Rancho Middle School furniture. As you all are very much aware, we have been undergoing a major renovation and HVAC replacement effort this year at Rio Rancho Middle. And so the board is being asked to approve an award for middle school furniture for this school site, and specific information will be provided by Michael Madrid, our purchasing director, and Melanie Archibald, our executive director for facilities. It is a major project. It's coming along nicely. It will be wonderful when it's done, and long needed. So it's really exciting to see that project move forward. We're going to ask the board to pull policy 724 tonight. We were planning to bring the second reading of this policy. Lauren Hatch, our chief legal counsel, has requested this item be tabled until the next week. And the reason for that is that we have had some changes requested by the Rio Rancho School Employees Union, and there just hasn't been sufficient time to review those requests and recommendations. So if we can pull it off this week, we will bring it back to the board at our next meeting next week. And then last but certainly not least, we will have our finance department report. You meet fairly often with finance folks and our finance meetings, but this report will be a little different. It will be presented by David Vigil, our executive director of finance, and he will be discussing things like his organizational structure of his department, the leadership experience leading that department, their efforts as a department to align to the Rio Rancho Public Schools strategic plan, the things that are new this year that are happening in their department, challenges, as all departments have some, and then last, some of the opportunities they see for improving in the future. And I will answer any questions or if you have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No
or
questions.
comments?
Thank you.
All right. Any questions? So as you heard, Dr. Cleveland brought up that we're going to appoint someone to sit in that committee for school start times. If anyone's really interested in that, please let me know, and we'll discuss that probably at our next board meeting and do the appoint.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Madam
you.
President?
Yes.
Board Member Tyler, I'd like to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations with removal of item 2D.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Noreen Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 5-0. All right. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland, once again for your comments. We are going to move into commendations. So this is our fall sports state team championships. We'd like to invite Bruce Carver, our executive director of athletics, to come and present these. And he'll invite, I believe, each of the teams as he goes through.
Good evening, President Galbraith, board members, and Dr. Cleveland. It's a real honor to be up here with some of our head coaches and some of our athletes. and we had an amazing fall. We really did. To steal a quote from head coach Sean Gill, who's with us this evening, we got on a little bit of a roll, and we had a little luck along the way. Quite amazing end result, 4 state championships and 2 state runner-ups. So that's, just for the fall season, you only had 6 opportunities really to win a state championship. So we got most of them, and it's pretty amazing. I think there's really 3 keys, in my opinion, to winning state championships. Of course, you need a lot of talent to do that, for sure. But you need a positive culture. You need discipline. And your team has to have the ability to overcome adversity, because all teams going to face adversity at some point. All 4 teams check those boxes, all 4 of them. But I want you to know I'm equally proud of all these teams, the way they represent. And I truly would be saying that if we didn't win a state championship, because they all represent the way that we are proud of. They really do. First guy I want to introduce is a brand new head coach. He comes in here in his first year. He wins a state championship in boys cross country at Rio Rancho High School. And then he got a runner-up with the girls, Coach Philip Keller.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us today. I have with Colin Tomiose and Skylar Galbraith and our senior Mason Steele, 2 juniors and a senior. I got hired this summer to coach the cross-country team, the boys and the girls cross-country team. I was really excited that Coach Gonzalez, who's the AD now at Rio Rancho, recommended me and wanted to hire me. And when I met these boys in June, they told me right away at our summer camp that they wanted to be state champions. And so I got to know them throughout the summer and throughout the fall. And these boys put in the work, and we were able to pull it off at the end. The season started with us taking second at Cleveland to Volcano Vista, and it ended up being our chief rival this year. And then it wasn't until the second meet of the year at UNM when we were able to beat them. And then we beat them there, and we beat them at our home meet at the Jamboree. So we were excited to have a home win there. But then as the season went along, they have the pre-state meet at Academy. That's a state meet course. And Bruce Carver talked about adversity, and they suffered adversity there. They kind of got beat pretty handily, I would say, at Academy. And so there was some hurt feelings. There was some tears and some upsetness, but we refocused and regrouped and ended up, and we were able to win districts and state. Both were close, both were tight, both were stressful. But these boys accomplished a lot and did a lot. And I will say too that they were a true team. Like our top 5 boys took turns being the leader of the team, and they didn't care who was the first runner, who was the 5th runner. They just wanted to be the best team in the field that day. So just have a lot of positive things to say about them. Also, I know our girls aren't here, but our girls took second, and they would have won if not for a strong Cleveland team back there. But we'll give them credit. They ran great all season, but our girls took second too and ran awesome. So, but I just really am appreciative to have this position to coach athletes like this that are dedicated. And just to give you an idea, like every day this week and last week, like we don't have any meets on our calendar till February, and these guys have been out running every day with me. So love having them. I look forward to continue coaching here, and just appreciative of your guys' honor and praise. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next coach, all of you are very familiar with because we brought him up here many times. Coach Kenny Henry. They were the favorite. The girls were the favorite going in. They'd been winning, but they held off of some strong competition. And I would mention this is Coach Henry's 19th state championship here at Cleveland High School. Okay, Kenny Henry.
Thank you again for having us. We had a pretty neat group of girls this year that did some pretty phenomenal things as the season went on. And, one of the things Mr. Carver talked about was you got to deal with some adversity most of the time if you're going to have a championship team. And I really do think that was kind of the deal with our group this year. We started off, and we weren't even able to run our full team for quite a few weeks. We had athletes sick, couldn't compete. We had athletes hurt, couldn't compete. So, for us, a little bit of a frustrating situation when you feel like you have a good squad, but you can't show it. And then luckily, the season went on, we got all of our people and things fell into place. And for the first time in our school's history, we were able to win the Metro Championships, the district championships, and the state championships. And so really a great season for us. One of the things I think that was really special for me and rewarding was the fact that we got third at the state meet last year, and we were thrilled. We thought we had really done something special, and we had a majority of those girls back. And so sometimes it doesn't always work out when you feel like you have a team that can do it. But what made this team able to do it, I think, is that we had some girls that took what we did last year and they said, you know what, I really want to take this to the next step and to the next level. And they did it, one of which is here, Eliana Rivera. She's a senior. This girl last year as a junior ran JV a portion of the season, made our varsity. We thought she ran fantastic by the end of the year last year. She came into this season and never finished outside of the top 10 in any of the races that we ran. So when you have an athlete do something like that, it dramatically changes what your team can do. So huge props to this young lady. Leah Feudy, she is also a senior on our team, and this girl has been, since her 8th grade year, really a force in cross country. She had maybe the worst race of her life last year at the state meet to finish 4th place. I mean, that says a lot when your worst race ever is 4th place. But she too had to get over some physical and mental things to be as dominant as she was this season. And when you have a young lady who can win the overall state championship, it makes what your team is trying to do a heck of a lot easier. So anyway, we're thrilled. Thank you for recognizing us again. And obviously decisions you all make to support our teams is huge. So thank you all again. And thanks for recognizing our girls. Appreciate it.
The next coach I want to introduce is Sean Gill, our boys soccer coach at Cleveland High School. And this is Sean's 2nd state championship as the head coach at Cleveland. He started the program at Cleveland. He's been there from day one. And I'm not going to take any of his thunder. I'm going to let him tell you this amazing story about the soccer team.
Thank you for having us, and thank you. I appreciate the time and the honor. It is a privilege for us to be up here. And I want to introduce our 3 captains for this year, all 3 seniors. We got Jack Marshall on the end, Damian Aguilar in the middle, and Evan McNamara. And to the testament of these 3 guys, they led by their work ethic, their attitude, and their willingness to do what it took. And we went through a lot. And I think the theme for all of us is adversity. And we went through a lot of adversity. It was right down to the wire. We beat out Rio Grande by 1 criteria point just to even make it in the state tournament. We were the 12 seed. We were the whipping child. We were the one that was supposed to get beat. And these guys, they knew it. As soon as I told them, they just, our practices were outstanding. They were having fun, and we went to the 5 seed and beat Albuquerque High, who was a 5 seed. We're like, cool. All right, who's next? Went to Hobbs and beat the 4 seed. We're like, cool. Who's next? Went to Volcano. They're number 1. All right, cool. And then played the number 2. So in the course of 2 weeks, we knocked down 4 out of the top 5 teams in the seeding criteria through the NMAA process, and prove that we are deserving, and that these guys, when they came together at the exact right moment, and they played for each other. And that's what was the awesome thing about us as coaches. We were just kind of in the back seat on remote control, watching these guys take care of everything on and off the field. Besides winning state champion, we had as a team for the varsity, we had a 3.14 grade point average. So they took care of it in the classroom and on the field. And I just couldn't be prouder of these guys. I wish they'd hang around and do another year, but they're off to bigger and better things. But thank you so much for honoring us and allowing us this time to come in, and I appreciate it. And the support that this district provides athletics is just, we are the envy of the state. And I guarantee you, I've been all across the state. And when we host events at both high schools, every coach goes, wow, you guys get to do this every day. And we're like, yeah, this is where we practice. They're impressed. And so credit to y'all. Thank you so much. And for all the stuff that you do for us. Appreciate it.
First year head coach Robert Garza could not be here tonight. He had a funeral to go to. So unfortunate that he couldn't be here. Eddie Kilmer has been part of all of our state championships at Cleveland with football. He's the defensive coordinator, and Eddie's going to come up and tell us about the run the football team had.
Thank you so much for inviting us to be here. We're really thrilled with this. We'll start with how our season began. It was not perfect. It was not all laid out. We won the state championship last year, and Coach Ridenauer left to go to UNM, and Coach Garza became the head coach. Well, that sounds easy, but in the process of that, every coach on our staff had a different job than they had the year before, but me. I was the only one that knew exactly what my job was going to entail. All of our offensive coaches had a completely different job than they had under the previous regime. That's hard to overcome. Coaches and players did a remarkable job. Just no way to expound what a wonderful job they did. And it's because they like each other. I guarantee you it's because they have fun. We have fun every day, don't we? Could be making fun of me for being old, but we have fun every day. We'll start with Stratton Schufelt. The best thing about Stratton is he's a junior.
There you go.
He played linebacker for us, and at the end of the year, he played some tight end the last two ball games. I had told the offensive coaches couple months ago, anytime you need Strat to play that tight end, go grab him and teach him because he can do it. Well, obviously he could do it. He had 120 tackles this year. That's quite a few. 8 tackles for loss, 3 pass breakups, 5 forced fumbles, and 1 hurry. Now, one of the best things about Strat, he's first team academic all district. He was also our defensive player of the year in our district. So we're glad to have him back, as you can just look and see. Evan Wysong, our senior quarterback, also played some both ways in the state game. He hadn't practiced defense all year long. At the end of the game, when we don't want them to beat us deep, we threw Evan in there at safety and said, don't let him get behind you. Of course, he's an athlete and he doesn't need much coaching. He can just play. Evan had, think about these numbers, 2,009 yards passing and 28 touchdown passes. He had 1,115 rushing yards and 15 TDs running himself. So I think my math's good enough to say that's 43 touchdowns he was responsible for. That's a lot of points. Also, Evan was academic all district and offensive player of the year in our district. We're very proud of these guys, and we appreciate y'all having us here and the honor for getting to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wait a second and then we'll.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll give you a minute. Do you have anything else, Bruce? Okay, so in just a moment, I'm going to give all of our board members a moment to speak in just a second, but I wanted to invite Mayor Hull to come up, and Bob Tyler, you're welcome to come up with him too. they came out. They wanted to give out some certificates to all of our great.
Yeah, well, we're not going to give them out tonight,
Okay.
but we want to give everybody kind of a precursor to, we want to invite everybody to city council meeting, the coaches and players, if they've come to the city council meeting, not this Thursday, but Thursday the 15th, 6 p.m. We will have certificates of recognition for each of the teams. But we did want to come tonight understanding that you were going to be recognizing these teams here. Unfortunately, I do try to make it to these championship games whenever possible. Unfortunately, I missed this one. I heard I missed a really good one. So this is one of the few that I hadn't been able to make it out to this past weekend. But when we heard that they had won, we weren't surprised. So yeah, because they do an amazing job. But we wanted to let the teams out here know that the mayor and the city council and the city of Rio Rancho stands with them and congratulates them, each and every one, on these tremendous successes. When we think about Rio Rancho High School boys cross country and Coach Keller, Cleveland High School girls cross country, Coach Henry, Cleveland High School boys soccer Coach Gill, and then of course Cleveland High School football head coach Robert Garza. We just want to congratulate each one of those coaches, but also congratulate the incredible athletes that form these teams. And we also want to thank the school district and this board. And I apologize. I should have said, Madam President, board members, Dr. Cleveland. I miss the formalities sometimes, but it's really your dedication and commitment that goes back many, 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 many years that creates the tradition. I noticed on the back of one of the players' shirts, it says, "It takes what it takes, keep the tradition." And definitely the tradition in Rio Rancho is a tradition of excellence. It truly is. And that comes from the leadership down, making sure that these coaches and these students have what they need to be successful. And so for that, like I say, from my office and from the city council, we are grateful. I do have a certificate of recognition that I'll read tonight for the football team, and then we'll reread this Thursday night at the city council meeting, along with the certificate of recognitions for the other teams as well. But basically, certificate of recognition, Cleveland High School football team. On November 26, 2022, the Cleveland High School football team became the 6A state football champions. This was the third year in a row that Cleveland football team has won the state championship and the fifth time in school history. The city of Rio Rancho congratulates the team and coaches for an outstanding season, which resulted in a historic state championship game. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Gregory D. Hull, mayor of the city of Rio Rancho, do hereby recognize and congratulate the Cleveland High School football team on winning the 6A state football championship. So to each and every one of you, congratulations on an amazing seasons and amazing victories. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I know that there's a couple of comments definitely that we want to have. I just wanted to invite really quick all of our coaches one more time to just come up here, and our students. If you guys would all just come up here one more time, just so that we can give our comments to your faces and not try to seek you out in the crowd there. So as they come up, I just wanted to take a moment to just say a couple of things, and then I'll go to each of our board members and to Dr. Cleveland. But we have amazing sport teams in our district, and our students are wonderful. And not only are our students wonderful, but we have amazing coaches. And every time I'm at these events, I'm amazed by the coaches that we have. It is just, it's a joy to be in our district. The place I'm at the most are the cross country meets. And so I just wanted to say a couple of things to both of those teams. First off, the boys, probably people don't know, but the boys, they ran like this pack of wolves that they were all together, and they were just this force, and it was amazing. And as they would run all together, their Coach Keller right there would just be so ecstatic as he saw his boys working together so much. What I love is that they are so sweet to each other, and they're always just wanting to uplift all of the other team members on their team. And it's been really a joy to watch this season. to our girls, I have to say, so Leah, when she had her horrible meet last year, it was so hard and it was hard for our district to watch, but it was hard for our whole entire state to watch. And Leah, as you run through, I can't even tell you, I don't even know where all these people come from. They're like, go Leah. Yes, Leah, go Leah. And it's really, really fun. I think that the whole state of New Mexico is backing you up and is so interested in what you're doing in the next few years. So I believe you're going to Syracuse, right? See, I heard that as you were running by, everyone was talking about it. Now, Ileana, I have to tell you too, that this year, all of us were like, who's that girl? Like, who's that girl? So you did an amazing job. You did an amazing job this year. I also want to see boys soccer. That's one of my favorite sports is soccer. And so you guys are good job this year. And to football, I never used to watch football until the last few years. And Cleveland, you are so fun to watch play football. So great job. Great job this year. I'd like to go over to Jeff Morgan for a moment. And I had them all come up because I didn't know if you had a question or not. So I wanted to make sure that you could ask if you had a question.
First of all, I want to say congratulations to all you guys. And I've heard many of the coaches come up and talk about adversity. And when I was hearing these coaches say that, that's kind of the way the Rio Rancho district is. I mean, we face a lot of challenges, not just you guys as athletes, the school district, the board. Everybody faces challenges, and it's just to see that you got young guys know how to overcome adversity and end up with the results that you have. It just inspires us as well to really work hard for you guys. So again, thank you so much. Coach Kilmer, right? That's your name? Please tell me yes to this. I made a huge bet with a guy about 2 weeks ago. I predicted that Cleveland would beat LaQuaver in the championship. That happened, but oh yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, my wife has something to do with that as well. But I thought it was 4 championships. Are you not including COVID year? Can you help me out?
It's 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 4 straight. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And if you're still around, one day I want to record you saying that because my friend's not going to believe
And
me.
we got beat in the 18 state championship.
Sorry?
We lost the 18 state championship.
Oh, that's okay. As long as you've done 4, that's all. That's what the bet was. Thank you
4
so
in a
much.
row. That's what we're saying.
All right, thank you so much. Again, congratulations to all you guys. We greatly appreciate your hard work. And as I often say, hard work pays off. You know that by now. As you get older in your lives, go out to the working world, head off to college, whatever you decide to do, remember hard work pays off, and there's always a reward for that. You know that by now. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gary Tripp.
Just want to say congratulations and to everyone, and did a great job. And trying to figure out what kind of work can you say to talk about excellence, but it's just great and cool what you did. And Sean, you could be the World Cup team next thing. You never know, buddy. you guys did it. All right, man. Good job. Congratulations to everybody. Great job.
Thank you. Noreen Scott.
Just thank you very much for representing our school district so well. And we're so proud of you. Congratulations.
And Jessica Tyler.
Yeah, congratulations to all of you. And I think Coach Kilmer, I think the reason that you were the only one that didn't get a new job, I won't say it, but I think you can figure it out. It's like, you can't, I'll say it. You can't teach old dogs new tricks. So they're like, just leave Coach Kilmer where he's at. Let him be where he's at. He's really successful. Just let him be. But I just want to say, Coach Garza's not here, and, talk about pressure. I mean, you guys didn't talk about that, but part of that adversity comes from, we take for granted sometimes that excellence, and it's not just excellence, really, it's dominance. And so sometimes, it's come to be expected, which can add pressure to our coaches, our programs. And I know I can only imagine how the football team felt this year, right? With Coach Garza taking over. Of course, you guys were left in a great spot by Coach Reinhauer and him moving on to a college coaching career, which is amazing. Everybody was happy for him, but I know that you guys probably felt that pressure. And so it was just so awesome to see you guys overcome that and continue with that excellence. And it really is a culture, from the time my kids were tiny, my son grew up with Evan, the kids just can't wait to go be part of the Cleveland experience, and not many communities have that. And so fun to watch you guys continue that excellence and dominance. And yes, we do come to expect it, but we do also appreciate it. And it's definitely not taken for granted. I know poor Coach Gill felt the pressure for a long time to bring a state championship, and now he's done that several years out of the past couple years. So congratulations to you guys. And Coach Keller, welcome to this wonderful environment. And yeah, now you set the bar really high. So now you know what you have to look forward to. But how fun is it that we get to compete against each other? Like you said, for the ladies cross country, for Rio Rancho to come in behind you. And it's wonderful that we live in a community that hopefully we're always challenging each other to make each other better, not tear each other down. And so congratulations to you all, and super proud.
Yeah, thank you. And Dr. Cleveland, anything?
Yeah, just a
afterwards?
couple of quick things. Again, congratulations to all of you and all the hard work that you put in. And, I'm sure most of you are aware, this is a highly competitive district. It is hard to even win district, and one of the strongest districts in the state of New Mexico. So it's a hard go from day one, to even be able to make beyond the district level. And so congratulations. Several years ago, I was talking with a head football coach in another state after a state championship, and something he said kind of stayed with me. He said, it's important to have a lot of talent. There are a lot of teams that have very talented individuals, but they don't win state championships. What wins state championships is a talented team.
Mm-hmm.
And that team can overcome even some weaknesses in terms of that talent pool if they all pull together. And Coach Gill, you kind of shared that as your team came together, peaked at the right time, and worked as a team. And you're talking about the boys running together. Teamwork is so important. And while hard work, and absolutely agree with what our board members said about hard work. But the other piece is really important is teamwork, and that stays with you your whole life. And so, if you could be part of a team, you could be successful in almost anything you do. And I'm so grateful my boys went through, had an opportunity to learn what teamwork can really accomplish, and being part of something bigger than yourself is really a wonderful thing to have. And those friendships and memories will stay with you forever. So again, congratulations, and we're just so proud. And Coach Keller, welcome. It's amazing to come in and have that kind of pressure. Coach Garza, who took on a new challenge, but boy, what a great team he had, and great support, other coaches to provide him that help as he transitioned into the new role. And for Coach Henry and Coach Gill, we're so glad you've stayed with us and been part of so many boys and girls' athletic experience and made such a difference in their lives over a good period of years. So again, thank you for coming this evening. I know you had a lot of other things to do, but we just wanted to tell you that face to face, and we're very, very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Jessica.
I also just real quickly wanted to tell Bruce, congratulations. I mean, to have two successful programs and allow the coaches to do their jobs is part of a testament to your leadership as well. So congrats.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I would like to say one more thing if I can. It was said earlier by some of the coaches, leadership is everything. And so we thank those coaches, but I also want to thank Bruce Carver for the work he's done to support our coaches and support our teams, and also our site athletic coordinators who play a key role in making these programs successful. I'm sure you know there are a lot of districts that don't have a state championship for years. And it takes a lot of work to build the kind of programs that produce this kind of results. So Bruce, we thank you as well for all of your hard work.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was going to take a quick recess, but we don't need to. Everyone cleared out. So that's good.
What's better than this?
I know. I know. We're good. We're done. Okay. Let me catch up on where I am. Okay. So we're going to move into business now. We'll start with our business item A, to consider the acceptance of a donation from HP to Maggie Cordova Elementary School. Janice Chenault, our elementary school improvement officer, along with Michelle Havel and principal at Maggie Cordova Elementary School, will present this.
Good evening, President Galbraith, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. Actually, Janice is out sick today, so I'm her replacement. And I actually want to just say a couple of quick words, is that over the years, excellence also means, obviously, these athletes are a good example of that. They're student athletes first and have done very well. But our partnerships with business, our community are strong. So HP, we've had a great partnership over the years. And so I'll turn it over to Mrs. Havel to talk a little bit about this
partnership. And I really like the fact that HP reached out to Maggie Cordova this time of year saying, you're a school, you're a Title I school, if you want to, it has a need, and how can we fulfill that need? So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Havel to discuss that.
Good evening. I do have Mr. Rodriguez here with us from HP, and we were able to connect with him through one of our staff members, Miss Debbie Rodriguez. She's here as well, one of our interventionists, who said HP was in shopping for a school that was Title I and in need of supplies and some support and funds for students. So they were generous enough to offer us a sizable monetary donation in order to supplement supplies for our students. So we are definitely grateful and humbled by their generosity and their willingness to be here tonight. So we appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Rodriguez, member of HP Inc.'s Philanthropy Board. I'll go and read off the letter and then have some additional comments. Maggie Cordova Elementary School has been chosen to receive a $600 donation from Rio Rancho HP Philanthropy Team. This fall, many of our employees took part in a back-to-school fundraiser that would benefit 2 Title I schools in our local community. Please utilize this donation to purchase needed supplies and materials for your students. So it's just some additional remarks. The fundraiser was actually took place at the High Resort baseball fields. So once again, in a Rio Rancho asset, raising money for a Rio Rancho school by a Rio Rancho residing business. So the money was also raised by, I believe, in total 60 employees for Rio Rancho. So just an all-around community effort here. So I'm really excited to be able to present this today. If accepted, we certainly are excited about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move that we accept the gift from Hewlett Packard to our Maggie Cordova Elementary
second.
School.
Okay. We have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Gary Tripp. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us, please?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler, and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you before you all sit down. Thank you so much. We're just always so grateful for our community of Rio Rancho and the support that we get from the businesses here. And Dr. Cleveland, do you have something?
We have, as any of our teachers, principals can tell you, we have needs. We have lots of needs for kids in Marigold Strike, and every little bit helps. And when a group in the community steps forward, that money goes for really good purposes. And so thank you so much for thinking of us and providing some extra resources for our staff to use.
Thank you. And I know Secretary Scott has something.
Madam President, I would like to say that Hewlett Packard is an example of the wonderful companies that economic development has brought to this community and what a difference it makes to the community to have a quality program and to have wonderful companies like Hewlett Packard. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to item B. It will be a discussion and direction regarding site options for new Independence High School and Rio Rancho Cyber Academy. Michael Baker, our Chief Operations Officer, along with Carl Leppelman, our Chief Academic Officer, will be presenting.
Okay, Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board. So we have a visual in order to just kind of look at the possibilities in regard to the placement of Independence High School and the cyber school. I'm not sure if you can really see that very clearly, but if we have an aerial shot, and if you can look more or less to the left of your screen, that big white blob there is the CTE building, and then to the west of the CTE building is the 10 acres of property that we purchased during this transition. So I just want to talk about a couple of possibilities first, then we'll get into the advantages and disadvantages. If we were to go this way, and that means actually placing Independence High School and cyber on that property, when you look at the footprint of those facilities, you could see that there is ample space to include a potential expansion of the CTE building sometime in the future. And so that's really what this kind of indicates. So there's many options. This is just one option. The other option is maybe just to put Independence High School there, not to put cyber school there. Lori, can you give me the next slide, please? So if this particular option does not suit the board, another option would be to either place both schools or one school at the old Shining Star location. Again, you can see the aerial picture there. The larger rectangle represents the footprint of Independence High School, the smaller one, cyber. Now, the thing about this particular site is you see a lot of that, again, a lot of that vacant property to the west of those buildings. That area is not buildable. So although the lot is pretty large, there's a lot of underground infrastructure there, and that's why one of the parking lots was there, is because you can't build there. So where the footprints are, where the old Shining Star property is, we could somehow build there. Now, while Shining Star was there, just for information, we did receive a number of complaints from the community, again, due to traffic issues, and people, typically parents would be parking in the residential area. And we received a number of those complaints typically every year. The one advantage with this site is that we could construct this this situation and really use some of the area to actually funnel the vehicle traffic in that open area rather than through the community. So I think this particular situation is very doable. There's enough room. We can reconfigure the traffic to feed right off of Northern Boulevard. So I think there's a lot of possibilities with this site. Just a heads up, we do not own the site. The site technically is owned by the city of Rio Rancho. We do have a lease on the property, and we have something like 70 years to go. So I'm not going to be around that long, so it's okay. But we could certainly talk to the city about maybe either a donation or maybe even a swap with property. They're interested in some property that we own. They would like to put up a fire station there. So there's some possibilities there, because I think it would be beneficial for the district actually to own it rather than to lease it. But this location it's a good location because it's centrally located. The traffic is an issue, but we could probably design around it. So those are kind of the two scenarios. And really, there's so many scenarios that it's really unlimited, the possibilities. Because we don't have to actually build here either. We could use other property throughout the city. But one of the things that we like to do especially with these two programs is to try to have it centrally located. And that's the advantage of this particular site. So Laura, if you can go back to the other diagram. And so again, those are two alternatives. There are many more. And so tonight we can talk about the potential for those, but just to be aware of some of the advantages and disadvantages for these options. The other, no, that's all right. That's okay. The CTE center. So probably the biggest disadvantage of this scenario is, again, traffic. We have difficulty with traffic really at all of our school sites. And it's just the volume of parents typically dropping off their students. And typically what we have is we have, that rush hour type of traffic, 20 minutes in the morning. Parents typically line up even almost an hour before school lets out. That is really pretty common with all of our school sites. This particular site has an issue because it's right off of State Road 528. So if you're traveling from the south heading north, it's easy to get onto the property. If you're traveling from the north going south, there is a turn lane that you can go into Zenith Court. The problem is that when you're coming out, so if you're coming out of Zenith Court, you could only go north. You cannot go south. And so that is the difficulty. Now you would say, okay, well, let's just put a traffic light there. The difficulty with that is that because it's a state highway, it is highly unlikely that the state highway is going to put a traffic signal there because it's so close to 448 traffic signal. So that probably would not occur. The more likely scenario, and I have been talking to the city about this, is to actually have Zenith Court, and as you can see where it goes into the cul-de-sac, and the city is kind of interested in this because they know that this design really doesn't accommodate the appropriate flow of traffic for that area. And they do want to remove that cul-de-sac. And so that little alleyway that goes from Zenith Court to Grande Vista then would actually be a road. So Zenith Court would go all the way through to Grande Vista. Grande Vista is a collector street. And so that would be appropriate. The difficulty with that, however, is the amount of traffic. So once CTE is fully functional, we have our new charter school just to the south of that. And then we would have the auto center with C&M students. We would have cyber school, and we would have Independence High. So it would be a very busy place. And so traffic would be an issue. How would we mitigate the traffic? We would have to stagger the start times for those different schools. So they're not everybody is coming or going at the same time. And that's something that we would do. We'd also have to coordinate with the start times with the elementary school at Enchanted Hills that's located on Obregon because of the intersection at 528. So there would be some logistical issues that we could work out, but certainly traffic would be the biggest challenge to place those two schools at that site. Now, some of the advantages of placing it there, the biggest advantage that I think we all like is that the CTE Center would be really a nice facility for those students at Independence High School, for them to walk across the campus and then and to be able to enjoy those type of CTE classes. And so transportation costs would basically be nothing. So that would help us there. And it would be for those particular students, the availability of having all those classes, all those trades, literally in their backyard, I think would be a real benefit to those particular students. Some of the other advantages is having like a campus style environment. We could kind of centralize some of our resources. So for example, some of the specialty positions, maybe ancillary folks, social workers, counselors, you could centralize those where maybe one particular worker could actually satisfy the needs of those three facilities. For example, security. You may not need three different security personnel to handle that entire complex, but maybe just one or maybe just two. But if they're scattered throughout the community, you typically would need one in each building. So that's just something to think about. internet or fiber optic. If we have separate buildings in different areas of the community, it's just more costly for us to provide that service. But if we have one location, we have the fiber coming in, it does reduce our costs. So those are some of the advantages with co-locating those programs and those buildings at that site. And so when you look at this picture, we don't want to say that's the way it's going to look if the school board decides to go this way. You know, we have a design team, we have architects that are trained to make the best use out of the property that we have. And so we're going to leave it to them to actually give us the best thing. But this really just represents the footprint of the facilities and how much property we have around that. So if you can go to the Shining Star. So if we go to the old Shining Star site, you could see again that there's, as far as the physical space, there's ample physical space for both facilities, but an alternative, you could maybe just put cyber there or just put Independence there. Is certainly another alternative. And there would obviously be, if you just put one there would be ample room with the traffic, with the parking for those facilities. The nice thing about using this particular property, it's centrally located. We wouldn't actually have to pay anything for additional land. And so we do currently have property that is off of Northern Boulevard, west of Unser, the old Joe Harris site. Really not a good location for a school. However, I have looked at some property that is kind of has large tracts of land. What we could do is we potentially could look at purchasing property. We could even look at condemning property. Most likely wouldn't really be center Rio Rancho. We could be possibly swapping land with other landowners for the land that we have, for example, at Joe Harris. So even though I use these two as examples, there are many other things that we could do. We could locate these buildings at a different site altogether. So a lot of possibilities. The other thing that I do want to mention is that one of the things, at least the message I think that I got from Dr. Cleveland's school board was, we really want to build this Independence High School. We want to build it as quickly as possible. So what we did was we rushed the RFP for architectural services, and the architect is ready to go. We believe that we were going to do it at the CTE Center site. So we would really like to make this decision quickly so we can get on with the architectural work, and then from there progress into actually construction. So I think I covered quite a bit. Carl, would you like to add anything?
I really think you covered the instructional part. I think the key that I've talked with Renee about this also is from the inception of this concept is really having access where students can walk over. I think the access to the schedule, students who are at Independence High School, obviously they're recapturing credits. So time is of the essence. So for us transporting students over to the career technical, they're going to lose time in that schedule to do that. One of the goals of having Independence High School close also is starting bringing 10th graders in, catch them up earlier so that gap in credits do not get compiled over time. So if you get those students interested, engaged, on track earlier, that's a benefit. So I do think operationally speaking, even though you have traffic problems, so we obviously do it, we have both sites, in terms of the amount of traffic that occurs when there's another school's there, I think there's some advantages instructionally, definitely, for students to be near that facility. It'd be much like Hobbs. Hobbs, obviously, students walk across and they go to their career technical classes.
Okay, we're ready for questions and comments.
I think we're ready for questions.
Okay, let me start with Dr. Cleveland. Do you want to add some things before we go to the board?
I could just share some thoughts. We certainly, by putting independence at this time, there's no problem with we were hoping to do the other building. So that need does not go away. And that's a real positive side. The concern I have, I do have some concerns. If you go to the bottom, as far down as it goes. I'm sorry. Is that as far? Yeah, right there. Thank you so much. I do have some concerns, and I'm not sitting back in my chair, and so he's afraid I'm gonna fall out of the chair. If you go to the bottom where you can see the highway, you're familiar, I'm sure, with this area. A couple of concerns I have, I think the board should just be aware of. If you turn onto Zenith, my concern is if you have traffic that starts backing up there, very quickly you're at Obregon and Corrales Road. I mean, it's just right there. I think what the board needs to at least think about is on this one little road here at Zenith, we're going to have school buses. We're going to have the CTE traffic, both student and adult, driving on that road. We're now going to have all the charter school parents driving on that road. We will then add the students at Independence, which if you've ever looked across in the district office, there's not a large number, but there's a good number. We'll be doubling that number with this campus. And then the Cyber Academy, if we put it there. The other thing that I think, is a little bit concerning, but we may be able to work around it. All those other buildings across the street are businesses, and they've been in this community a really long time. And so they're all going to be fighting the traffic now for schools. When we first started talking about this, we were hoping to get the other building. There would have just been them and one entity, to have to work through some of these issues. We will be working through these issues with CNM, Rio Rancho, public schools, the charter, and the businesses. So we're all going to have to be part of this solution. If you've ever been out at any of our buildings, but Cleveland is the one that kind of jumps out at me the most on that one way in and what the traffic looks like sometimes. It's kind of overwhelming. We do have an exit, and that's been pointed out at the other end. We'll have to have some work done on that. Our buses could not go on it now, but you could at the very end, you could open that, we think. I also, as you can see, right across the street is River's Edge 1. It's been there a really, really long time. It's one of our older neighborhoods. And some concern about what impact that might have on River's Edge 1 neighborhood. We've certainly had some issues at Rio Rancho High over the years with students parking in Loma, Colorado, and all of that. But it is a pretty good sized street. That street takes you right into Corrales Road. Certain times of the day, that's of course all the traffic coming from Enchanted Hills comes to that same intersection. Concern is that we don't have a lot of traffic backing up onto Corrales Road, competing with Enchanted Hills, competing with the existing businesses. And so, while I really do like Independence being close, I really do like that idea. I'm worried about what it's going to look like in terms of traffic. And over the years, I think one of the biggest areas, if I would say what's been one of the biggest areas that we have just consistently had problems with, and that is traffic flow and the inconvenience that we provide, we've created in neighborhoods and whatever, but we've done the very best. We've done the very best we could. And so, but what I can see is coming out on Zenith, and you've got the school buses lined up, and you've got the students lined up, and you've got the business people lined up. We could adjust, as Mike said, some of that based on changing of times and being more flexible on time. But when I mentioned flexibility on times to transportation, she looked really white. I mean, she's having a hard time now. Another tier, another specialized schedule. Yeah, maybe it can be done, but she didn't look excited about it, I have to tell you the truth. So, and also it raises an issue Renee Salcedo raised about whether we can at least change where we don't pick them up at the home schools, really just pick them up, but they'll come from all over the district. But we'd like to get out of picking them up at the comprehensives for discipline reasons and some other things as well. But as long as we're tied to the comprehensives, we're tied to that bus schedule. So that could be a bit of a challenge. So I think those are just some of the things that we, that we need to think about. I don't know. I think that the traffic is going to be a challenge and very problematic. And I am worried a little bit about the businesses that were there long before we were, and what that's going to mean for their access to those sites. And what really threw a wrench into all of this really was the charter school, because it really changed the dynamics of the whole thing. And I did speak to the Public Ed Commission against it. So I'm not against the school. I'm not speaking against the school at all. But I am wanting you to be cognizant of the really serious transportation issues I think it's going to create. Because most charter schools, the parents, not all, but most bring their kids. They're out of district. They're out of that attendance area. So I think we'll have a considerable amount of traffic from that. So nothing is impossible. And I think, as they're saying, we can probably work around some of these things. I just want the board going in with their eyes wide open about what I think could really be a community issue in Rivers Edge 1, and what I think could also be just a traffic flow issue on Highway 528. The last thing I'll say, then I'll let you all ask questions. I had hoped originally that we might get a traffic study done that would find another way onto 528, because if we could do that and get a light there, then that north-south issue won't be an issue. There has been somebody killed at that site several years ago, and I know that at the time, Victoria's Secret, who had the building, did try to get a traffic light there, and we're told it's absolutely not possible because it's so close to Corrales and Obregon, and it really is. I mean, it's just literally on top of it. But if they could come in and we could get a light on down the road. But Secretary Serta, he did ask me to submit a new proposal. He asked for some additional information. Just told me, I really don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be cost prohibitive. And I also said, I don't know if it, about the traffic flow on 528, but he didn't say absolutely no. So they would have to do some more work on it. Lauren very reminded me that sometimes when you ask for those kinds of changes, they'd like you to pay for them. And they are very expensive when you come onto a state highway like 528. And I don't know that we could find the money. We would have to hope that we could get a legislative appropriation for it or something. But it would probably be beyond our ability to be able to fund something like that unless we took it out of bond. But we have so many other needs too. So this kind of want to present both sides. There's good arguments on both sides. And I think, I want to tell you, I think we can make it work. But I am also very concerned about some of the unintended outcomes that I think might happen there. So we'll try to answer your questions if, whatever you have. Okay. But there's some pluses and minuses, absolutely, both ways.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cleveland. So we'll start with some questions. We'll go to Noreen Scott first.
I'm curious, the drawing of the proposed auto building, why is there a gap in the middle? Is it because there's bays on either side? What's going to be in those wings of the building?
Yeah, good question. So that's kind of an outdoor area, storage area that CNM is looking at this particular type of design.
So storage area isn't going to be particularly attractive?
Well, I know that the drawing doesn't do it justice, but it wouldn't be seen from the roadway. I mean, there would have to be on the backside some type of a wall covering that. Because you're right, it would be, like old automobiles, engines, transmissions. It would be very unsightly, but it would not be viewable from the public.
Okay. All right. That was my first question. And my next question is, the way you've backed this up to the road, does that mean that that will be backs of the building, or are you looking at like a frontage road along the back?
No, I asked Melanie and Patrick just to plot this on paper, just to give you an idea of the space. So, when the architects take a look at it, they'll position the building or buildings in a much more effective and efficient manner. So don't really look at, I asked Patrick, move this here, move that there, without really giving it much thought, because I'm not thinking about how effective these placements are or how efficient it is. The architects will do that work. The reason for the diagram is to just give you a visual to see that the footprint of the building would actually situate itself with enough room around the structures in order to provide for expansion of the CTE building when that would occur sometime in the future.
Okay, my final question, as you were doing your presentation, you said that Joe Harris Elementary School site that we didn't use was not a good site for a school. Why did we buy it then?
I think what's happened is the development that occurred around it. So when it was first purchased, the property itself, I mean, it's a nice flat piece of property, but where there's dirt roads there. It's situated between two large residential areas. I don't think it is really a good site for these two buildings.
Oh, just for these two, but it would be okay for another elementary school at some point.
Maybe.
It depends on how much it gets developed out
Let me
there.
tell you why we bought it there initially, because at that time when that site was purchased, it was the only place that we could find in Rio Rancho that had infrastructure.
Okay.
And every other place we were looking at that time, the cost would have been considerably more by that lack of infrastructure. And as Mike said, it built up around it over time. The other reason we bought that site at that point in time, it's really flat. Flat, very little dirt work would have had to have been done, and flat is not easy to find in Rio Rancho. So it had utilities. It was very flat. At the time we purchased it years ago, it looked very different. You didn't have that newer subdivision around it at all. Okay. Today you have a situation where if you do have buses, they will rumble through a residential street to get to the school. AMRAP, as you know, has had an interest in that site and talked to us about the possibility of trading that site for another site that we might like in another location. So, that's always been a possibility of trading that site out, just simply because they had some interest in it. I don't know if that would ever work or not. If I could add one other comment I should have added, and I absolutely said that I would. I do want you to know that President Hartzler did raise the issue about whether we wanted to give up the potential for future expansion should CTE continue to grow, and just question whether we wanted to close out that opportunity for the future. And I had told her I would share that. So I wanted to be sure that I did. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, Jessica Tyler.
Can you give me a estimated breakdown of the anticipated enrollment for the charter school, CTE, and then I know cyber and independence, we're looking at doubling the current enrollment, but can you just give me a quick breakdown of the anticipated enrollment for all those?
Well, we were looking at around 350 for the career technical education academy, the actual school there at the facility for CTE. Currently, I think we have a little over 200 at Independence. Am I correct with that? So this new building, we were looking at doubling that capacity, including 10th graders in the options for that facility. And what was the third? I'm sorry.
What's the
cyber? We're about 150-ish. Oh, we're close to 200. So we have added. So we're 200 there. And we do have obviously at Independence, we have waiting lists. We have students that need that support. Cyber, I don't know if we have a waiting list. A shorter one.
So do we think like 300 would be a fair number? And then
Yes.
do we have any idea of what the anticipated enrollment is for the charter school?
No.
What is their projection? Do we know? No. Okay.
I think I read something at one point that their max number was 350.
Okay.
But I'm not positive where I read that.
I think I read that same thing.
Right. And they will.
So, yes, I mean, so that's a total of roughly potentially 2,100 students. So even staggering start times, we're looking at a full high school campus level of traffic, correct? So I know you guys talked some about the pros and cons of, keeping Independence and cyber together, or potentially doing cyber at the other location at Shining Stars, but that would only alleviate potentially, 300. And again, I know state CTE start times would be staggered, but I agree that the traffic at that location would be a concern. However, I do like the pros of having them in one location and be able to bring services logistically to one location would definitely be a pro. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I do have some information on what you just asked. I just looked it up. I don't have all that you would like to know, but in this first year, they are going to be K through 12 and grade 6. They plan to be all grade levels by 2029. And the one thing that I see here is up to 750 students when completely filled out. I cannot imagine that building could hold that. So that may not be correct. So this is just looking it up. So I don't know if that's data is correct or not. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland.
I think with all those.
I don't think that building can handle that many at all. So this may not be correct. I want to be real sure.
Unless they're
so.
building more. But
Yeah.
Gary Tripp, you have a question? You want to go to Jeff Morgan?
Thank you, Madam President. I have I guess a completely different take on a lot of this. When I see this, I see a building for Independence High School and a building for cyber, and I don't see a school that grows engagement and instruction, so we move the needle. So I think we're just putting bodies in a building. And I was trying to figure out what the test scores of our children look like in the last 10 years. And has really things moved at Independence? And I'm wondering if we had a school, an actual school with a cafeteria, gymnasium, engagement activities, performing arts activities, athletics, if there's some kind of comprehensive school that's going to help move the needle, progress Rio Rancho from where we're at here to another level. So I see, I don't see the engagement, so we grow the graduation rate. I don't see engagement, so quality instruction, and these kids are doing way better on their ACT scores. So I kind of like to see if we can change the mindset, because I think a sufficient education for every child would be more like going to Shining Stars and building something. Yeah, we want to double the numbers, but we want to increase the quality of everything we offered, so we have a profile of a graduate at a higher level, because that's what we just did. We just honored state champions because that's the way we think every day, So I just see a building, and I think the 13 teachers at Independence will keep getting really decent results. But maybe there's more to this whole thing if we set it up with the great minds we have, you guys, that we really can make sure that these kids are highly successful community members. So I see us needing a school, and I think that current location is just my opinion, is way unsafe for too many buildings, which would be too many cars and too many teenage drivers. And I would hate to have that on my shoulders, that we had that kind of accident. So I kind of see utilizing this community that's going to continue to grow. But what can we do for the kids that we go to another level of new heights when we talk about, this community could certainly use a great performing arts center, and we could maybe be the spearhead of that, and be great to have AP offerings at an alternative high school, blow this country away, whatever the case might be. But I just kind of start thinking in those types of services for our children and for our taxpayers, because I think we're just trying to grow and meet a need, and we're not thinking kind of outside the box, if you will. But I really think the exploration of facilities around the community, and let CTE grow to see where it goes with a vision the next 10 to 15 years, because I think it's going to grow like crazy, and do our best to provide safety within that structure. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in, but I think engagement is the one thing that will move the student scores in quality instruction. And how do we fit those two common denominators into what we're trying to create? So thank you for letting me ramble on that.
Vice President Morgan.
I didn't know if you guys want to respond.
They're building.
Yeah.
Member Tripp, we fully, and I agree with you. I know Joe Robocava, I understand all the history of Independence High School. We definitely need physical education. We definitely need students, other types of career pathways. For some reason, I'm standing back because I feel like going in and out. So I think that you're absolutely right. As we get the architect on board, we need the people in the room from the schools. We need to look at the state of the art in terms of what's look at alternative high school. But the piece that's missing, it has been missing for years at Independence, has been where am I headed next in terms of all those electives, all those things that we can. Now, we did at one point in time a culinary program with Walt Schutz across the street. We did have several things that are occurring, and I do believe there was engagement. I do know right now we've raised the expectation at Independence. Stephanie Moore and working with Renee and the whole team in terms of what it means to graduate with a diploma there. So they've done an exceptional job. I think the part that's missing is having those other things. Mr. Trev, I agree with you on that. So there's no intent just to put a building there like we were going to buy the other building and renovate. This allows us to start from the ground up with our community. What do we need at Independence High School? So that's the whole intent of the process. The question would be, is it better here or maybe at the former Shining Star site or somewhere else? So I think we'll go through that process, the ed specifications that we used to do, like for example, Shining Stars. We'll go through that process working with facilities. So we absolutely want to capture the program, Member Tripp. We definitely don't want that to be, we want that to be quality. And so we do know that's inadequate across the street, and we need to move forward. But I think I agree with you that moving too fast, are you going to get the things that you need? Ideally, we have a lot of land there. Is that right? We bought some land. We bought what, how many acres? 12?
Over 10 acres.
Over 10 acres. So we could just look at this as a career technical area. You're going to expand that and then look at another site. One thing we talked about at Cabinet Day would certainly be, does cyber really need to be there? That's a whole nother school that would add more, certainly more traffic, more buses, those kinds of things. And again, we don't have exact number for C&M yet. What's going to come with that, their full auto EV program and their diesel program. So we really don't have firm numbers just there yet. So there's a lot of pieces to this. I just want to say that though, in everything we do, like as we work together, curriculum with facilities, we're going to look at program and what the students need first, and then build around that. So I don't want to. I want everybody. It's not just a building. I think it's more about where would we place that building to meet the needs of that program.
Thank you. Jeff Morgan, do you have some?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. The first question, Mike, it seems like the biggest challenge for both of these properties is traffic, correct? Well,
Yeah, I
it's,
think
it's
that's
a
correct.
little minimized with the Shining Star property, right?
Yes.
'Cause if I'm hearing Dr. Cleveland, you guys saying it'd be a bigger headache over where the CTE building is going to go, correct?
I'm sorry.
It'd be a bigger, traffic would be a bigger challenge having these two properties next to the CTE building, right?
That's
That's kind of what everybody's saying.
Yes.
But it's a little minimized over on the Shining Star property piece, right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And then my next question was, and I'm not sure if you said this in the beginning, but has dollars been put to these buildings that they're going to be, that we're looking at building on both these properties from a cost standpoint?
The facilities, there's a cost estimate for each facility, yes.
So do we have that information? Because that would help determine some of this as well, so.
I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. Do you, Melanie?
As I understand it, we're not going to be making a decision tonight, so perhaps there's enough time for you to get that information to us.
Yeah, I mean, I have the information. I could probably get it to you in like a few minutes. As far as the cost of the building,
Yeah, we do have to make a decision.
Yeah, we have direction.
the quicker the decision, I mean, we want to move forward with the project. If we wait a month, it just means that we just lost a month. So, the other thing to keep in mind too, I mean, this is a pretty big decision because these are permanent facilities. They're going to be there for a long time. So there's a lot to consider. And even though, yeah, we would love to have a decision tonight, but I don't want to pressure the board because there's long-term, ramifications with this decision. So, but just know that the longer we put it off, we won't really be able to really get underway in a big way. It's possible that the architect could start gathering information, but the site location is very, very important. I think it's more important to get it right. So.
Go ahead.
If we're looking for direction tonight, my thought would be to give Independence its own campus. Based on what we heard at the School Boards Association meeting this weekend, engagement is critical, and that's what Mr. Tripp was referring to, I think. So that would be where I come down, and I'm curious where other people are at this point. If you had to vote tonight, which I thought we didn't have to do.
Yeah, well, so I have similar feelings. I think at it too. At the same time, I'm really concerned about the traffic, but at the same time, I do think the engagement part of it, when we're talking about putting them down there, and being on that same campus with CTE and all those things. I mean, we're talking about creating a really, really neat environment for a lot of these students. And so I can see that aspect of it as that engagement part that we're talking about would be a great environment, I think, for these students where they could feel some of that sense of community as they're going through. Though I am still very similar to you, Noreen. As much as I want that, I'm concerned, one, about the traffic, but even more than that is that opportunity to grow at this location. We have, I know you just plopped the buildings on there, but we see how close we kind of have them in there. I loved the thought that Noreen had. I don't know if you were really throwing that out there, but the thought of a frontage road right there actually is a really good idea to give us some wind around space for cars to come in. I think that's actually a great idea. Something that we could look at. But it is, I'm glad Jessica ran the numbers. I mean, when we're talking 2,000 students between our district and this charter school, that's significant amount of cars that come in there. And so we have to look at that too, is what do we still need here now for parking structure to support even just our side of it? Have you guys looked at that portion of it, just the parking for our own?
Yeah, so there would be ample space for parking there as well. But kind of going back, the original, this business park, you had something like 800 employees operating at the Alliance Data Center. Now, granted, it was 24/7, but really the majority operated during the day. Then at the Concentric building, I believe there was like 400 and something employees that were operating at that facility. And then if in the future that property, the 10 acres, I mean, if another building such as Alliance Data, I mean, it is designed to handle, several thousand workers. That's the way that was put together. So I don't think it's necessarily out of the realm. But yes, I agree. Traffic is an issue. The safety with moving traffic in and out certainly is an issue with all that activity going on in that area.
Thank you.
I do believe, though, and you can correct me, Norman, you probably know more than background about that. I believe that when it was the call center, whether it was Alliance or Victoria's Secret, whatever, it was 24-hour operation. So you didn't have all of those cars at that site at any one time, and there were 3 shifts, as I recall. So you take that and divide that by 3 is really what was on that site at any given time. I do want to clarify this because I've tried to contact a couple of people. That's what I'm doing on my phone. I'm not paying attention. They think the number's 350 to 400 on the charter, which makes a lot more sense. So I definitely wanted you all to have that number. And again, this person I think is pretty reliable, but I will verify and get back with you for sure about the number. But I think that's probably accurate.
Thank you. Jessica, Tyler, did you have something?
Oh, I was just going to say employee parking versus parent pickup lines are not equitable comparisons. Parent pickup line is a little bit more crazy than employees just coming and parking. And yes, and I mean, and we have horrible traffic problems at almost every one of our schools already. And that's not coming out onto a state highway. I think for, looking just not 2 or 5 or 10 years down the road, maybe not 70, because like you said, we're not going to be around then, but we do have to think about growth. I mean, as much as I like the idea of having a consolidated campus for CTE and Independence, I think it's in the best interest to not put those buildings at the same place as CTE to allow CTE to grow in the future and put those 2 school sites at a different location, whether it's Shining Stars or somewhere else. It's kind of where I'm leaning towards right now, just for, like I said, I mean, I think right now, sure, would it be great to have them all together? Absolutely. But due to the traffic and then just the restrictions that we would have on growth for all of those programs then moving to the future, I think it's beneficial to have them at an offsite location and then try to just deal with the transportation of still getting them to be able to utilize those services at CTE.
Yeah, thank you. Other comments?
Yeah. Are you going to be able to share the cost with us? That's the only thing I want to see.
Pardon?
The cost? You said.
I can. I'll turn my computer on and spit that out.
You don't mind.
Okay. Well, so we're looking at direction then for right now. Are we feeling comfortable that we can give that direction? It sounds like we have a good direction. Do we need another week? We have another board meeting on Monday if everyone needs a week longer to think these things over. We are working with architectural firm to start working on these things. And I'm super excited. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple of years. We've been going over to Independence and we've been looking at buildings and just so much hope. But at the same time, like Mr. Baker saying, this is a building a structure that's going to be there for a long time. And so it is a big decision on what we want to make. So my question is, do we want to give that final say on our direction tonight, or does anyone feel like they need more time?
My preference would be to give a final decision next week when the finance numbers are there for Jeff, and for us to have a chance to drive the property a little bit. I think that would be good for each one of us to do, to go drive the two sites and think about it in terms of where those buildings are going to be. And, especially with your background in law enforcement, give us some feel of your thought on the ingress and egress. I think just one more week is a better way to go. Just my opinion.
I think this is too much for one area, but and so I prefer even tonight to make a decision that we're looking at other sites. But I kind of wondered, thinking here is, what if Independence was at Shining Stars and Cyber moved over to Independence and it was remodeled? I mean, as we try to create something bigger for the future as well. I mean, so I guess I'm just trying to think, or try to help thinking about how can we meet needs of the future as well as meet needs of now.
Yeah, and one issue with that is that our district office is also growing as much as everything else is. And so with that close proximity to the district office, it also would be a good place for us. Is that correct, Dr. Cleveland, to use that
Again,
website?
that would be up to the board, but
Yeah.
what our hopes for that facility would be, and again, it would be, the board would have to approve that. Our hopes is to create a special ed center there for all things that children with disabilities need, the adaptive technology, all of the child find services, which would actually, if we moved out of, and I'm not saying that's what we ought to do, but if we moved it out of Shining Stars, that would create more room in the current location to be able to serve more children. But to put all those services where parents in this district could come to one location for all things special ed, their audiology services, their everything. And our hopes would be to put it in that building across the street, moving the special ed personnel into that building out of our building right now. And Jerry said that they could be pretty excited about making that work. But again, the board hasn't approved anything. And that's just one thought.
Yeah.
But it would free up some space. We're, as you know, pretty tight quarters over here in our building next door. But the real issue is that we need expanded services. Right now, if you have a child with disability, you have to go several different places to get different things in our district. It would consolidate those services in one location, make it so much easier for parents who were needing special services. You would go there for everything.
I don't doubt that. I just was worried about the cyber community. I don't know if they're welcomed where they're at. I don't know.
They are not at all.
So
I mean, I can tell you
and there
that.
are kids, so that's just the food for thought.
There is.
Schools don't make the greatest of neighbors. I hate to say that. We don't try to be bad neighbors. We really don't, but we don't always. No, we've had a lot of problems in that complex with the other businesses, which is a little bit what drives some of the concerns about some of the other businesses. But as you know, the old Shining Stars site, that's a problem with that site because those neighbors never liked that school being there. They are always complaining about the noise. But, what we could always say is we were there. We've been there. We're there a really long time. But anyway, that's
well, I was going to say there's 25,000 square foot building in that same park with where Independence is now that could be available for cyber.
Okay. Good.
Madam President, so to Vice President Jeffrey Morgan's question, Independence High School, the building cost would be approximately $28 million and $15 million for cyber. That's the building cost.
On which site? So it'd be the cost for either site?
Just for the building.
Just for the building itself.
Yeah, so we, each site is going to have its own cost depending on where the location is.
Oh, okay.
So the advantage to this site is that this site is basically buildable, ready to go. Utilities are there, fiber's there. That's the advantage there. The disadvantage of Shining Star, there's some major plumbing issues that we had with Shining Star. I'm not saying that those things can't be overdone. Traffic is an issue, but we could design around the traffic. And so a lot of our schools right now were not designed to handle the current traffic. So many years ago, many of the students were actually bused to school. Now what's happening is many more parents are actually driving. So when you look at all of our school sites, with the exception of Joe Harris and Shining Star Preschool, the other schools were not designed to handle the traffic that it currently handles. And that is really a real problem for us, just because of the design was not there at that time.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from as far as from the board is, so I think we have two different ways to look at it. Is tonight we could give our direction as a different site. That's what I'm hearing, is looking at a different site, or we can hold off for another week and like Noreen said, go and drive these different areas. And so that's really, I think, the two different motions that we could give for giving our direction as far as tonight goes. I know Gary said that you're more in favor of making a decision tonight than, yeah. Okay.
I can make a motion. Okay. Board Member Tyler, I'll make a motion to proceed with locating both the new Independence building as well as Cyber Academy at the old Shining Stars site.
Do I have a second? No second?
There are some concerns with the site, the old Shining Stars. Do you want to share those?
Yeah,
After the
so
motion?
I did talk earlier
Yeah,
about.
Should we get a second?
No, it's okay. I don't think we have a second.
Oh,
so go
okay.
ahead.
I just want you to just share, there are some challenges with the site. You need to know what they are.
This is what you
But
guys
it is a
presented.
good
I thought we
site.
did that, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I did.
One of the great things, I'm sorry, one of the great things about the site is it is very centrally located, very easy for everyone across the community to come there. But Mike does have some concerns about the site, and I want him to have a chance to share those.
Yeah, earlier I did share that where the parking structure was, if you look at that footprint right now, west of where the facility would go, that open area to the west, you can't build there because of the underground infrastructure. We would have to design, keep the design where the parking would be there, maybe some frontage roads to funnel the traffic off of Northern Boulevard onto the site. So the traffic would be reduced going into the community. And I did say that their plumbing is an issue at that site, but we think it's old plumbing, and that, digging up the old stuff and putting some new stuff should resolve that issue.
Do we have a second?
Yeah,
You go for one.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I do want to say still, though, that it says direction. And so we are giving direction tonight. And so there's no reason why you cannot, if this is not going to work, it's not going to work. So we're just giving direction.
This is just
tonight.
direction for the architect to be able to start seeing the feasibility of building these two buildings at this site.
Yeah. So we're direction. We're just giving direction.
I would like to make an amendment that we say that that our direction is that we want to put Independence and Cyber at a separate location than where CTE is, and then that way we would allow for more movement. Go ahead.
The problem I see with that amendment is that the purpose of giving direction is to allow the architects to start working on a design at a specific location. And if we don't give, this is my understanding, if we don't give a specific location, then that amendment would take us no further than where we stand today.
Okay, this is my concern. I think that Cyber might be better at another location and just use the site for just Independence. That's my thinking. But okay.
To my understanding, we would still be able to make that change later. Again, this is just to start with the design.
Okay.
It wouldn't tie us into keeping both schools at this site. Correct?
Well, what I'm hearing, what you just said something a little bit different, but the first time I heard was that both of those facilities would be located at that site. So, I mean, what we could do is next week, maybe what we do is we have Independence there and we look at maybe a couple of other alternative sites for cyber, or vice versa. If you want to take the week, and we can come back next week with a few other options. Because what I'm hearing from the board is that you don't like the idea of those facilities at the CTE Center. And if that is correct, then next week we can come back with maybe a few other options. That would be one, is locating both buildings on the Shining Star site, but we could have maybe another site. For example, we do own property. I'm not saying this is the thing to do, but we do own property across the street from Cielo Azul as well. That was for a future middle school, however, but that is an option. The other option is that we could condemn property or swap property as well.
Okay. Madam President, can I retract my motion then?
You can, I think.
And I'll make a new motion. So the motion is to move in the direction of finding an alternative site other than CTE, both to potentially house both the Cyber Academy as well as Independence, and also the possibility of sites that would hold those facilities independently.
Good. I'll second that. There you go.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Motion by Jessica Tyler, a second by Jeff Morgan.
Let's say that again,
Yeah.
please. Or sort
I
of say
understood
it
it.
again.
The motion is to give direction to staff to not move forward with Cyber and Independence at the CTE location, but the potential of housing both still at the old Shining Stars location, or potentially housing those two facilities at independent locations or separate locations, so that we're not using independent and
I know, that's
independent
where I
school.
was
So
like,
sorry, at separate locations.
Okay, I think I've got that.
You ready to take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
That passes 5-0, and I guess we have another agenda item for the next meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay,
We could.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I have written all over my papers. So, oh, and Mike, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I know. We'll now move to item C, which is consider award of ITB 2023-012-FAC, Rancho Middle School Furniture. Michael Madrid, our purchasing director. Also, Melanie Archbeck is available for questions. Our executive director of facilities.
Very good. Board President Galbraith, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. The action requested for tonight is the board approve the award of business environments as the lowest bidder. The procurement method that we used for this particular procurement was an ITB, an invitation to bid. The criteria for an ITB is lowest responsive bidder. So I'll kind of just go through the procurement, identify the responsiveness of business environment. The procurement was initiated on behalf of our facilities department, and responses were received from 6 vendors. The vendors that submitted a response were Beck Total Office Interiors out of Albuquerque, Business Environments out of Albuquerque, Contract Associates out of Albuquerque, Goodman's New Mexico out of Albuquerque, Learning Environments out of Houston, Texas. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold. And we did receive a no bid from School Specialty. No bid does constitute a bid, though. So we include that in the count. As is required on all the procurements, we assess all the bids to ensure compliance with the various requirements of the solicitation. and all 5, with the exception of school specialties, met those requirements. We did take an extra step because of the complexity and the nature of the furnishings, and the district hired an interior design consultant, Decker Paris Sabatini. We leveraged their expertise in identifying and working with our district to identify the needs and what furnishings could meet those needs. They were also very instrumental in reviewing product substitutions. Part of the procurement requirement is we identify minimum specifications and requirements. We allow vendors to come back to the district and identify, in their eyes, products that meet those same requirements. And we identify any that are approved through an addenda. We issued addenda number 4, identifying all approved product substitutions. The vendor that's recommended, Business Environments, has some history with the district. They were the vendor that provided the furnishings and did the installations for the furniture at Joe Harris Elementary School. What I'd like to do is maybe go through the pricing matrix and give you a little more explanation. There's 3 columns identified in the pricing matrix. One of them, the first column, is for the base bid and bid lots 1 through 3. And then we had an approved product substitution request, which is the second column. And then we received a request for a third product that was not approved as part of the substitution request. The uniqueness of this procurement, this is kind of a learning model, I think, on procurement in general, because it touches product substitutions, but it also touches the resident business preference. It typically doesn't come into play because most of the vendors have a resident business preference, but in this procurement, it did come into play, and it was significant. So if you look at the dollar amount that's referenced for Business Environments, they are 1.14 million on their response. And you look at the next lowest, which is Beck Total Office Interiors. The 1.14 that's referenced for Business Environments reduces their original bid of 1.2 to the 1.14, making them the low bidder. So unfortunately for Beck, if they would have had a resident preference, they would have been the recommended vendor as the lowest responsive bidder. But once we take the calculation of that 5%, that's not the case. So recommendation to the board is for the lowest responsive bidder, and in this case, it's Business Environments. And with that, I will stand for questions and then redirect the board for requested action.
Can you explain a little bit about why they got the resident business preference and the other entities did not? I didn't catch that part. I'm sorry. So why is that only applicable to that vendor?
So any procurement that is issued through the state, there's a preference that's statewide. And there's actually 3 of them. There's the New Mexico resident business, there's a New Mexico veteran business, and now we have a third one that was effective as of July, the Native American resident business. So there's 3 opportunities for a resident preference. All the vendors have an opportunity, if they meet the requirements, to submit an application and receive the preference certificate from Tax and Rev. Part of the procurement, we don't want to be chasing these down the road. We identify that in order to be eligible for consideration for that preference, you must provide us that certificate. And so when we do the pass-fail verification of all the affidavits required, they can still participate and they're eligible. And you can see that the pricing was there, but they do not receive the preference. They could. It's up to them to do it. Why they didn't do it, I can't answer that question. Most vendors do.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. If we have a motion.
I can make a motion to award the invitation to bid 2023-012-FAC for Rio Rancho Middle School furniture to, can you go back to the top, please? Business Environments, which was the lowest bidder.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Noreen Scott. And I'm sorry, Dr. Cleveland, did you have anything on this before we vote? Good. Okay. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott, Board Member Tripp,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler, President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, who seconded that?
That was Noreen Scott.
Okay, thanks, Nori.
I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
You guys are just ahead of me today. Okay. We have a,
Board Member Jeff Morgan, a second.
I feel like they're telling me I go slow. Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeff Morgan. Kim, can you take a roll call for us? I don't think this is normally on our business. I can just do an all in favor if you.
Yeah, no, I'm there. Sorry about that. You guys are just too fast for me. Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tripp.
Yes.
Board Member Tyler.
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, for our last item, we'll go into reports. We have a department update on finance. David Vigil, our Executive Director of Finance, will be presenting to us. And I think we have about 3 more reports after tonight and then we'll be through all the department reports.
Right, that's correct.
So, just so everyone knows. Go ahead.
Thank you, President Galbraith, members of the school board, Dr. Cleveland. Appreciate you giving me time to talk about my fantastic department this evening. I will try and be brief, like Dr. Cleveland said. You get to interact with the finance department, me and my staff quite often. In fact, Mr. Madrid was just up here just a second ago. So I'll try and keep brief, but I do want to kind of highlight a lot of stuff that's going to be going on. First slide is just a presentation of our organizational chart. We have 3 sections of our department made up of the department, subdepartment of finance, headed by Heather Gabaldon, the director of purchasing, as you just heard from Michael Madrid, and the really technical financial food service department. So headed by Dean Gagos. And so this kind of just gives a brief overview of what the department looks like. Next slide, please. I just wanted to highlight some of our experience. So we have over 155 years of relevant experience as part of the leadership team on the finance department. I come from, I started my career at the public education department where I spent 5 years in the school budget finance analysis bureau and the charter school division. I moved on to found 2 charter schools over the past 10 or 12 years, and spent the prior 2 years at Santa Fe Public Schools where I was the director of budget. And I just completed a year here at Rio Rancho, so I'm very happy to be here. So again, lots of experience with our leadership team. You can see that the district is in fine hands in terms of looking over the financial affairs of the district, of ensuring that we have adequate internal controls in place, and that our food service is up to speed and working towards improvement there. Next slide. You all have seen this slide many times over the past few months, but this is our strategic plan, and we'll go over kind of how we support that. Next slide. So with our staff excellence, within the between our different departments and school sites, we analyze compensation data and work with our HR, our Chief Operations Officer, and other departments on staffing challenges. We support the development of staffing budgets for all departments, programs, and school sites. We support and maintain professional development budgets, and we process all travel and training requests, all the way from the requisition all the way to the final payment. We process biweekly payrolls, 26 a year. We handle all assignment pays, stipends, and special payrolls. Usually there's about 1 special payroll per week. We maintain adequate controls, as I mentioned, over all financial transactions as they relate to payroll benefits, payroll taxes, and procure contractual services for direct instruction, instructional support services, other operational services, including for food service, security, janitorial, maintenance, etc. Within the finance department, in terms of staff excellence, we hold weekly staff meetings to make sure that we are aligned to the project status updates, goal setting, communication strategies. Professional development, we support opportunities as they relate to public procurement, school finance, government accounting and budgeting compliance, and student nutrition. And that's done all through the budget development process. And we encourage diverse hiring committees. So what we've done is encourage a lot of the different team members in finance to participate in our hiring committees when certain vacancies pop up as well. I think it's a really important experience for all of our people to have that experience to sit on those hiring committees. So in terms of engagement and innovation, we support innovative and engaging learning through the budget development process and also the monitoring processes of those certain programs. Our new school ERP software is coming online. We're in the process of that software implementation right now. We will provide increased flexibility for financial tracking. We're going to be making some adjustments to our chart of accounts, which will present a little bit of a challenge, but it will allow for increased flexibility and tracking to a more granular level for certain things that we are not able to track right now, or not able to track easily right now. You interact with Mr. Madrid and the purchasing department quite often, but our purchasing procedures allow flexibility for acquiring the relevant resources needed to support engaging and innovative instruction, while ensuring fair treatment of vendors and also ensure compliance with state and federal procurement statutes. Next slide, safety and wellness. So our food service department participates in the School Health Advisory Council in our shacks with other district stakeholders to develop the PED required district wellness plan. The finance department works directly with the HR department and our insurance carrier, Palms and Associates, to access many safety and wellness programs. We support safety and wellness also by working directly with our student services, our safety and security departments, and in terms of budget tracking, purchasing, and reporting. Next slide, let's see. So in terms of operational excellence, what we try and do is encourage open communication. Finance doesn't want to be the scary place where people are afraid to come and ask for technical assistance. So we want to make sure that people feel welcome to come in and ask questions when they need to ask questions. What we're doing actually is implementing some periodic budget review meetings for certain departments that may need some extra technical assistance throughout the year, helping to monitor their budgets for compliance, but also to make sure that expenditures are happening on a timely manner, and that purchase orders are being fulfilled, and that things are arriving on time, and that payments are occurring on time. So the other thing in terms of operational excellence I wanted to touch on was our school ERP Pro software solution. So that is, we've had our Alio program for many, many years here, and it's done well, but we see some opportunities to increase the efficiency by which we are tracking our financial data. And there have been some limitations with our current system that we feel like the district has outgrown the current software solution. So we're in a 1-year implementation project to migrate to the new software. And I can report to you that it's going real well. We have brought on not only the software provider, but we're also involved with a third-party project manager who is kind of keeping us on track in terms of meeting our deadlines for identifying and documenting our business processes, so that when we go to move over to the new system, those processes can be implemented in a way that helps us track the things that we need to track. So that's going real well. It doesn't come without our challenges. Like I said, one of the things that we're doing is looking at our chart of accounts and aligning that account structure to the PED and that current account structure that they have. So one of the things that allows that additional flexibility is we currently have a 32 character account strand, which is pretty long. We're going to increase that up to a 38 character account strand. It gets real technical, but basically what we have is we have a 4-digit code at the end of our account strand that helps us identify certain things that PED doesn't necessarily track. So a lot of those option 1 codes are used to identify certain departments within the district, and that's a 4-digit code. We're going to be moving to the PED structure, which allows for a 5-digit code, and so we'll be able to track a lot more things with more specificity there at the option 1 code level. There's another component, and PED calls it an option 2 code. That's also a 5-digit code, and we currently do not have the capability to support that element right now. But we're going to be moving towards that. And the way that we see that helping the district is to help us identify not only the department that certain expenditures occur, but also to track within that department even a higher degree of specificity in terms of certain projects within that department. So that is that added flexibility that we think is going to help the district. So new this year, like I mentioned, we are on track with our implementation of our financial software. We plan on going live on July 1st, 2023. Another really fantastic thing that happened here is we brought on our new payroll manager. So we did have a turnover that occurred this year, and we brought on Christina Thompson. And so she started with us as a payroll specialist and came to us from Bernalillo Public Schools. The fantastic thing about her is that she worked with, it was called iVisions, but now they're changing the name to the School ERP Pro for the financial software. So she actually worked with it back at Bernalillo Public Schools for several years. So she's very familiar with it, and she's going to be great. She has been a great asset in helping us to understand some of the things that are happening during this transition as we move forward. And again, I just mentioned earlier that we're working to make the finance department a collaborative environment where people feel comfortable reaching out for questions, technical assistance. Mr. Tripp even visited me at the finance office a few months back, so we appreciate that to kind of help people understand how things kind of work. So next slide here. Just wanted to give you some highlights from the purchasing division. Mr. Madrid did a great job of providing some information here, but kind of that second column shows the totals for some of the things that were happening in 2021, 2022, in terms of the number of procurements that happened, whether it was ITBs, RFPs, price agreement contracts, that sort of thing. And the second column shows year to date this year of those same procurements that are taking place. The third column, or the final column, just shows of the percentage of capacity that we've already established over the course or through November of this year. So you can see that in just 5 months, for ITBs, we've already done 4 through November, and not including tonight. And all of last year we did 5. So we've really increased the capacity of what we've done in the purchasing department. So hats off to Mr. Madrid for really doing a fine job there. Next slide, budget and accounts payable. You can see that for the first quarter, we've processed 2,627 invoices. We've processed 1,013 checks. Commerce Visa payments, which are kind of like electronic payments to our vendors, 271. The list kind of goes on there. So you can see that we've been busy in the budget and accounts payable areas there. Next slide. Highlights with food service. So you can see that this is a table that shows some numbers for the number of lunches served during certain periods. So as of last year, we had a total of 156,880 meals served, or lunches served district-wide. in the month of October last year. This year, we've served 125,844, which is a decrease of 20%. Now, remember that we went back to, not everybody is 100% free anymore. They've lifted that COVID restriction, so not all schools got to eat free this year. They all got to eat free last year. But what we did show is the schools underneath, they are all eligible for what's called the community eligibility provision under the National School Lunch Act, which means that every student at those schools gets to eat for free regardless of their income status and whatever, because they meet an eligibility threshold for the entire school, like the population. So we're able to provide a free meal, breakfast and lunch for them. And so you'll see that even though district-wide in the month of October, we dropped in terms of the number of lunches district-wide, we actually are increasing the participation rates in these schools as a result of being on that community eligibility provision. So there's some positive things that come out of the food service department, and just some information that we wasn't able to get into the presentation in front of you, but we did. I have some preliminary results from a survey that we sent out to students, where we asked several questions about the quality of the food, the taste of the food, the diversity of the offerings, and so far we've gotten 400 responses. Where 72% of students said that they thought the food either met or exceeded their expectations. 75% of students were satisfied with the choices that were offered. 74% of students said the overall presentation of the food at their cafeteria either met or exceeded their expectations. Out of more than 400 student surveys, 75% said they were pleased with the taste and flavor of their cafeteria food. So those are all positive signs that we're moving in the right directions with the food service program. And again, these are just preliminary results. We hope to be able to dive into those numbers a little bit deeper, so that we can continue to make improvements there. Next slide. So challenges. Because not everybody eats for free, we have some, we're accumulating some student lunch debt. So as of November 15th, we accumulated about $31,000 of lunch debt across all of the different schools. This lunch debt has to get covered with operational funds. So part of the USDA school lunch program is that we're not able to use the money that we get from those federal lunch reimbursements to pay for the students' debt. So that actually has to come out of our operational pocket. We were visited by the New Mexico PED and their student nutrition department, where we had an issue with competitive food sales. So when they came out to our schools, they saw that we were selling things that were not approved in terms of the nutrition standards at our student stores, our DECA stores, stuff like that. So things like sugary drinks, high salt, high fat content, sugary food items. So they, they're encouraging us to try to come in compliance there. So our food service director has reached out and are working with our staff here to hopefully bring in some of our vendors that can provide healthy or compliant, Smart Stack compliant nutritional offerings that we can sell in those stores. They're not going to be as popular as Dr. Pepper's and stuff, but it's part of what we have to do to maintain or to try and get into compliance with that competitive food sales. I mentioned the school ERP Pro software implementation. We have a dual entry period by which we're going to have to enter these transactions in both our current system and also in the system that we're moving to. And so there's certain different departments or sections within our departments are going to have to start that on a timeline. So for instance, our GL, that's actually going to start next month. And so any journal entries that we have to do, we're going to have to do them in both our current system and also the new system. Payroll will be very similar, accounts payable, things like that. So that's going to present challenges because we're already very busy and we're already doing everything that we can during the regular work day. And to have to double that up is going to present a challenge. I mentioned the chart of accounts changes that are coming. There's going to be a certain level of education that we're going to need to be able to provide to our district users, whether it's our school principals, whether it's our admin assistants, in those chart of accounts changes, because they're used to seeing and putting in their purchase requisitions using the account codes that they're used to seeing. And so those will change. And so we're going to be rolling out some communication and some training over the next 6 months to get them used to the idea of what changes they're going to need to make when they're presenting their purchase requisitions, things like that. So next slide. Opportunities for improvement. So we get a report card every year, the finance department. And so with our financial audit report, that's our report card. It guides the changes that we have to make. It identifies places where we need to make improvements. Obviously, our goal is to be always in compliance with federal and state statutes, rules, regulations, and policies. And as part of that, we have to have an audit committee. And so we appreciate you all, Ms. Scott and Mr. Tripp, for sitting on our audit committee and really being engaged in that process and asking a ton of valuable questions. It helps us get better. The way that I see it, we never see an audit as something scary. We always use it as an opportunity to learn about our organization and make positive changes that help us be as efficient as we can with taxpayer money. So where we have other areas of improvement, we build staff capacity. So the financial reporting and tracking, purchasing tracking, standard budget, and PO reports. So what I'm talking here is about is that everybody has learned, or all the departments have learned, to use Alio in a way that helps them do their job in every department. And what we've noticed is that when they come and ask the finance department for technical assistance, we have to learn their reports because they've pulled data off and have changed it in a way that helps them understand what they need to do. So what we want to be able to do is use some standard reporting as we move to the new system, so that everybody speaks the same language when we meet about their budget, about their purchases. And so the idea is to solicit a lot of input from our departments, either the administrative assistants and our executive directors or other management people, in order to help us know what we need to build out in terms of reporting capacity. Because the goal is to allow everyone to kind of speak the same language there. We want to continue to build trust with our colleagues in the areas of budget development. So like I said, the idea is that coming over to the finance department shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't be something that we're going to tell you no all the time, although we say no a lot, and that's kind of our job. The thing is, and it's part of Economics 101, is that there's unlimited wants with limited resources. And so what's the best way to allocate those resources, and how do we go about helping people get that done? So we want to continue to do the outreach. I think my staff does an incredible job of answering questions and are available at any moment of the day, even after hours. So I'm very happy to be part of the team, and I'm very happy that I've inherited such a great team. So, we want to continue to build upon our high level of technical assistance to school sites and departments. So, next slide. Planning for the future, we want to continue to look at department metrics as a continuous improvement tool. We want to fully implement school ERP Pro and integrate ongoing training into current practices. The idea of using bottom-up management evaluations. So this is a tool where we ask about the culture that we as leaders are building in the district. So when we go and solicit feedback from the team, I'd like to know what we're doing that is encouraging teamwork, communication, so that it informs my practice as a manager, as a leader. It helps me build the culture that we're trying to build around here. So a lot of this evaluation is always top down. You get evaluated by your supervisor. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to ask the staff to evaluate me in the terms of what we're doing well, where I can improve, so that I can help build out that culture of teamwork, of communication. We're looking toward utilizing electronic vendor payments for AP. This is something that as we move into the new system, it's kind of the wave of the future. Everybody likes to get, we like to make sure that our vendors get paid on time, that they get paid accurately. And so part of that is not having to check the mail, take a check to the bank, deposit it, cash it, that kind of thing. So we want to become more efficient in how we handle those transactions. And then something for the future is that we want to implement a comprehensive electronic payment solution beyond just student lunches and athletic tickets. Right now, we have some solutions that allow parents, you all, to buy athletic tickets, via electronic means. You can load up your students' lunches through our Titan system. But we want to go beyond that. We want to be able to expand that so that parents can pay for field trips, can pay for, if it ends up being library book fines, it's that. But we can provide a comprehensive solution and like merchant account point of sale stations at every school, so that people can pay with credit cards or even through their phone now. So that's what we're looking to do for the future. I think that's it. Did I do it in 15 minutes? I'll stand for questions. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to talk about my team.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and your team. Dr. Cleveland, do you have anything?
I just have a couple of quick questions, just clarification. Was the food survey sent out to all students or only students in the CEP eligible schools?
No, Dr. Cleveland, it was sent out through our district newsletter. And so all the school administrators, all the principals had the opportunity to send that out to all of their students. Yeah, I just highlighted a couple of the points there with our CEP. We're still going through the data here. I can tell you that we have 3 schools that had really great participation. So Independence High School had 58 responses, Lincoln Middle School had 254 responses, and Vista Grande Elementary had 105 responses. And so the rest of them had, a handful. So we're still trying to, it's still a good number, and the survey's only been out about 3 weeks, and so we still have an opportunity to get some of those more responses from some of these other schools. So as we get some of that, we'd be happy to share it with you all. It's one of the things that we know that we need to make improvements in is making sure that first of all, that our kiddos, if they want to get a meal, that they have an opportunity to get one, and that it's healthy and nutritious, because that we need to do a better job making sure that they eat breakfast in the morning, because breakfast kind of sets the tone for the day. And we know that full bellies provide an opportunity for kids to be attentive learners when they're in the classroom. So.
Okay, and then just a request, maybe. Looking at this lunches served district-wide, we're down about 20%. This is the CEP eligible schools, so obviously this program has been pretty successful. We have not only kept the students, but increased in most cases. So, but could we get the data for the other schools so we could see where that loss is? Because that's a lot, 20%. If we could we get all of our schools so we can kind of see, is it a high school issue? Is it a middle school issue? Is, where are we needing to maybe do some work so we could look at all of our campuses?
We have all of that
Okay,
data.
if we could get that, I'm just interested just in looking at where we've lost some of that. And then my last is just a comment. We hate to lose any money, and we, lost 31,000. But I will tell you this, it was far less than most any other district that I've talked to. Some cases, they are incredibly in debt after COVID. So while this is a great news, it's better. I just want you to know it's far better than most districts. And that's due to the hard work to try to keep kids in our lunch program. But you don't want to see it, but again, better than most. But I would like to see where that greatest loss is in our lunches. And then maybe we can talk about some things we could do to support it.
Absolutely.
But thank you for a very good report.
Sure. And I'll just add that we knew that our participation was going to drop because we went from 100% free and reduced or 100% free across the district last year during COVID. And so we knew that as we phased that out and we stopped, the schools had to kind of recertify all of their eligible students. We knew that participation was going to drop. And I can say that that a drop in only 20% is actually pretty good, considering that we were up, everybody was eating for free, and now not as many.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that we're only about 45% free and reduced over the entire district. And so kids are still eating, and if they're hungry, we don't deny them a lunch just because of their inability to pay. They can get a full, healthy lunch through the cafeteria, and with no lunch shaming whatsoever. So, and I can say that we do have all of the data for all of the other schools. All of that is in detail. So we'd be happy to provide that to you.
Yeah. Well, and I would encourage, my family's one of those. I mean, when it was free, everyone was just eating at school, and we didn't typically do that in the past. But I will say I think it was about a week ago, you guys, they sent out reminders of that, you owe some money, which I had no idea that one of my children was eating pretty much every single day. So send those out again, and just because I think it's good, then parents can get in there and make sure that they pay those if they
We do. The other thing that we're doing, President Galbraith, is that we are reaching out for those that have the student lunch debt and are asking them to complete an application and free and reduced lunch application. And in many, many cases, they are eligible. And so what we've done is from the moment that they're eligible all the way back, we're forgiving that lunch debt. So if they become eligible, it's wiped clean.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. Gary Tripp.
Good report. I have a couple of questions. One is the $31,000. That was between the beginning of the fiscal year and in October, correct?
From when school started in August all the way through November 15th.
Through November. So do we see another 31,000 so it's 31,000 for this school year?
No, it's 31,000 through November 15th. And it was really high at the beginning. And so we knew that we were going to be incurring this debt for students. And so we've done a lot of outreach with our food service staff to reach out for those that have balances. And so you can see that the daily rate of people that are students that are not paying is actually shrinking, the number of students that are, because of the outreach that we're doing. So we can expect to probably incur more debt through the end of the school year, but at a slower rate.
Okay. And I guess my suggestion is that the New Mexico business officials take their data to the LFC so that they see the gaps in educational funding. Because if this is a priority that a child eats, then this is a really fixable problem for school districts, and they may appreciate that kind of foresight as they get ready for the following year. And then the other question I had was David, the ERP software migration, and a lot of training going on. Are the school personnel involved in that as well at this level now?
The plan is to train them. We have only started the beginning stages of our own training in the finance office. So they're going to be trained a little on down the line, but yes, they're included in the training plan. And I can tell you from your first question,
The ASBO folks do not have a legislative advocacy arm. So as a member of ASBO for many, many years, I can tell you that they do not, for whatever reason, their emphasis is not in legislative advocacy. So but it is something that we talk amongst my colleagues around the state and other finance directors throughout the state that yes, we're all aware of the issue in terms of that student debt and how operational funds have to be used to cover that. And we do the best we can in letting whether it's our board members, whether it's our superintendents, whether it's our, if they have legislative advocacy people or lobbyists, if you will, that they do that. But we would have to go up just on our own, I guess.
Yeah.
But ASBO doesn't sponsor that.
We'll take it up with our lobbyists and see how we can rally it's such a fixable issue that I think the LFC and our legislators would appreciate hearing that we have this student debt.
And the need is greater in other communities as well. So we're fortunate that we are able to support feeding kids and wholeheartedly, and so it's just a matter of getting the word out.
So my last suggestion is the possibility of looking at the new software, and you're going through it, and I know June's going to be here before you know it, but there's a lot of transactions, a ton of transactions. The report was fantastic, and I know that when we talked about the audit, there's also those things about internal audits that double checks things that may occur within the structure of payables or whatever the case might be, and you might want to consider that since it's new, and you want to make sure that you just cover everything. Make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's. But thank you.
Absolutely.
Excellent
We'll
work.
certainly take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice
I
President
don't have
Morgan.
anything. Again, thanks for all the information. Greatly appreciate the time and effort in the presentation.
Thank you. Jessica Tyler.
No questions, but also thank you for the report and all the work that you guys do.
Yeah, thank you. And Noreen Scott, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
And Dr. Cleveland, anything else before we end? I do just want to say thank you again to all of you and the education that you give us and the patience that you give to us all the time. Michael Madrid, that was a great example tonight of you taking a few minutes to kind of explain some of those things. And so thank you so much for taking that time to do that and to work with us. And you guys are really doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for advanced planning, so we have December 12th which is next Monday, will be our regular board meeting, 5:30 here. The 19th and through the 20th will be final exams. December 20th will be Independence High School winter graduation. A lot of times that's here, but according to this, we're having that in Cleveland's concert hall. Okay. And I think we have invitations for that too here on our. So then December 21st will be a half day of classes for students, also a test makeup day for our secondary students. And December 22nd through the 4th will be winter break. I can't believe we're going into January. January 5th will be a staff in-service day. January 6th, classes will resume for all students. Also on the 6th, there'll be a Cleveland High School Honor Band All-State Concert at 4:15 at Popejoy. And then January 9th will be a regular board meeting here at 5:30. And with that, our meeting's adjourned for tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Only an hour over.
I don't know why they don't ever go to Rio Rancho High. We've got a nice